And we're back. Our guests on this segment are Jerry Bowen, an ALS patient, Amanda Holcomb. Well, Amanda's lost a husband to ALS, and she can tell us what she went through. And we also have JoCarolyn Chambers from the ALS Association. I want to welcome all three of you. Thank you very much for coming. Obviously, Jerry, I'm going to start with you.
Sure.
You're how old?
I'm 65.
Well, you look a lot younger.
Oh, well, thank you, sir.
When were you first diagnosed?
December 2013.
So not that far back.
Well, you say that, but almost 5 years. That's a long time for an ALS diagnosis. Typically, you have 2 to 5 years after you're diagnosed. So mine's considered to be progressing slowly.
Well, that's good. We want to keep you around as long as we can.
Absolutely.
Jerry, what was your life like before the diagnosis? What industry were you involved in?
Oil and gas industry. I worked for a wonderful company called One Oak, and I did the hydraulic simulation on all of our pipelines. So I'm very social. I love working with people. So it was right up my line because I got to work with engineers, business development, people out in the field.
Is that the same crew that could open and close valves around the world? Yeah.
Yeah, but One Oak is a parent company of many other companies. But
I'd like to ask you, was there some indication before you went to the doctor that there was a problem or could have been a problem? And if so,
yes, sir.
What was the indication?
Yes, sir. This is the thing, the reason ALS is diagnosed so many times by professionals. My symptoms started out with muscle fasciculations, twitching. I was on a plane on the way to a software conference, and I started getting twitches in my chest. And it was something that was significant, and it continued the whole time of the conference. So my daughters, as proactive as they are, my youngest daughter is a speech path, and she was familiar with ALS and knew that could be a symptom. So we went to the neurologist immediately, and even though my EMG came out abnormal, he says, we're going to watch it because there's a thing called benign fasciculations, and it's not ALS. Watch for weakness. So about 2 years later, even though I was working out twice a week, I started to put a gallon of milk in the refrigerator and realized that something was wrong. So we immediately, with my daughters and my wife, had another EMG, and that's when I was diagnosed with ALS.
You knew about the disease.
Yes.
You knew what it was and what it represented. How'd you handle it?
Well, I handled it all right. That's the thing about this disease. It's one thing to learn your new limitations on a daily basis, but to see your family and friends hurt, that's what hurts the most.
And there's not a thing you can do about it.
Yeah. And what's so ironic about it, we lost some of our best friends. She was diagnosed with ALS in the 90s. She only lived 2 years. And so we were very familiar with ALS. Their son grows up, goes to college with my girl, falls in love. My son-in-law, his mother passed away with ALS, and then I was diagnosed with ALS. So it's a crazy world.
Right up close and personal.
Yes.
Amanda, I want to talk with you a bit. I want to try to be as gentle as I can about this, but just to lay it out so folks at home understand, you lost your husband to ALS.
I did, back in January.
How much of what Jerry is saying sounds familiar to you?
Very, 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 very familiar. It is very hard on the families. I have a stepson who lost his dad. He's 15 years old, and it's been very hard on all of us.
How much time, well, let me back up here. When was he diagnosed?
He was officially diagnosed in December of 2015, so, had signs before that, but they never quite understood, what was actually going on. He had multiple diagnoses of other things that were similar to ALS, but not fatal like ALS is.
Did he put off, like most men do, going to the doctor? I do it.
No, my husband was very, he actually had a heart attack several years prior, so he was very active in his health and was always very health conscious. So he was extremely strong and had very well built, and so, and always focused on his health. So he was pretty progressive about it. He, and both of us did a lot of research and kept trying to see, what was going on and, see if we could figure it out.
Now, I know folks at home, as I talk with you about this, are going to say I'm handling this improperly. Because anything I ask you, Jerry's going to hear. And I understand your feelings on that, but we have no other way to get the information to the folks at home.
Yeah.
Can you recall some of the symptoms your husband might have demonstrated or exhibited?
Yeah, like Jerry, it was vesiculations early on. And then the interesting thing about ALS is it doesn't follow the same path. So Jerry's story is different than Rick's and my story, and is different than somebody else's story. And so that's the challenging thing, is everybody has a different path and progression. We were very fortunate. Rick did not lose his voice until the last week of his life here on Earth, but several people lose their voice very early on. That's something that we didn't experience. So.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you go on to testify to Congress or in front of Congress in some manner about this?
Yeah, we went and saw several of the senators and congressmen in their offices back in, May, and went and told my story and Rick's story to, help them understand the impact not only on, patients, caregivers, wives, families. It doesn't just touch, the patient, it touches the whole family. It touches friends.
Well, talking with them, though, also aided in Oklahoma getting the ALS office, did it
Correct.
not?
Yes.
That's correct.
So we owe you a debt.
Not just me.
Jerry.
It's Jerry,
You paid
it's
the
everybody
price.
there. I was there
Yes.
representing everybody.
JoCarolyn,
Yes, sir.
what exactly is ALS? We all refer to it as Lou Gehrig's disease. What is it?
Amyotrophic lateral sclerosis.
Which means?
Which means no muscle nourishment to the motor neurons and to the muscles, which then evolves into paralysis and lack of ability for any of those muscles to work.
The brain can't communicate to the muscles. Those motor neurons die, and the brain doesn't have a way to communicate. So literally, your muscles get atrophy or literally die on the vine, as you would say.
Right.
And
What can you folks do to champion the cause for ALS?
So the ALS organization has three main tenets. One is research. One is care services, which is providing referrals, resources, support groups, bereavement programs, helping people who are initially diagnosed with ALS, as well as their families, start to navigate the system and figure out what to do and how to do that. And then the third proponent would be the advocacy, so that the 5-month waiting period for benefits after a person is diagnosed will eventually, hopefully, be taken away. But right now, folks have to wait.
Would I be wrong in suggesting, well, let me say, first of all, this is one particular disease, if you will, that knows no socioeconomic boundary.
Correct.
So it might be the owner of a bank, it might be a guy sitting in his backyard.
Absolutely.
Someone gets a diagnosis that they're now suffering from ALS. Would it be proper then for them, working with their doctor, to immediately call your office for recommendations?
Absolutely, because we have books, we have referrals, we have resources, and we can certainly help direct them to where that would be the most beneficial.
Don't you have a walk coming up in June?
Yes, we do.
And I
Not
think-
in June, this month.
Oh, it's this month?
Yes.
I'm so
Yes.
sorry. Don't we have some video of that? Let's take a look at what happened last time around. Tell us what we're seeing.
That is the walk that happened last year and will be a week from Saturday here in Tulsa at
Guthrie Green.
Guthrie Greens. And we would invite anyone to come out to participate, to see the courage and the strength and the resilience of all of our ALS family.
Well, I want to thank you all for coming in. Jerry, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I honor your courage.
Yes.
It's an amazing, amazing display of courage on your part.
Thank you, sir.
And also, Amanda, thank you for sharing your story with us.
Yeah, thank you.
And you, child, we want to get you back.
Thank you.
So I think we're going to try to get a camera out to shoot,
Okay.
you know, the march that's coming.
Awesome. We'd
So
love that.
We'll see what we can do.
Thank you so
Thank you all
much.
three very
Thank you,
much.
sir.
Thank you, Sam.
What is the Community Service Council and why should you care? We'll find out more right after this.